Here today to introduce Kun Visanu Euarchukiati. But before doing that, I just want to make a remark that I love this word, archaeoastronomy. I'm not familiar with it so much, but I think it's a lovely word. And the thing is that stargazing isn't particularly popular at this moment in time. I think it's not very trendy. But I think if you come this far, braving the rain, and you all in this room realize that in fact it's a very important subject because it's something to do with the stars and culture, of course, you know that. And then, of course, I won't preempt you talk a lot about this. But then it's not very popular because most people now live in a city. They can hardly see any stars anywhere. So I very much hope that today it will be the start for the Siam Society to redress the balance. So to make it really an important subject. So now I come to introduce Kun Visanu. It's very small print, so I will try my best, but you can read. He's chair of the Siamese Heritage Trust, Siam Society. He graduated with BSc in Computing Science from Imperial College London and Computer Science from Florida Institute of Technology. Now he works in IT, and he's been with a shell company. But most importantly, he is editor and author for the National Astronomical Research Institute of Thailand. Now it is important not to say about astrology, astronomy, all right? He has produced a series of books on astronomy. So now I think that I think that's probably enough for me to be reading this now. But welcome, and so over to you. All right.
Okay. Good evening. Audience, friends, everyone. I have to first, as Kun Chatvichai said, I'm a computer scientist by profession, but since I became unemployed, my stargazing activities sort of took over. People knew that I like the stars, and I like writing. So they asked me to become editors for books on history of astronomy in Thailand. That's how I got involved with the NARIT organization, which is in Chiang Mai. My history and astronomy thus come together. My own interest in archaeoastronomy thus sort of clicked with the people who are working in this field in Chiang Mai. So I helped them with different things, including proofreading their books and helping with, coordinating their trip, which is going to go next week to Sri Lanka for archaeoastronomical activities there. So today I'll talk about what they do. I'm involved with some of the work that the History and Heritage of Astronomy group at NARIT do. So this is my sort of introduction to archaeoastronomy. It's about learning how ancient people used their knowledge of stars and sky in their culture. Mostly in buildings. Buildings and structures and paths. It involves many disciplines. You have to know astronomy. You can benefit from knowledge of archaeology, anthropology. You should know history and statistics. The last one you see why we use statistics later. Well, civilizations built monuments to align with celestial phenomena. We've known this about the Khufu pyramid of Egypt, where one chamber has a tunnel pointing to the North Star. The other tunnel points to Sirius and Orion for the king, for the strongman of the culture. The next one is Stonehenge. This one is oriented to the sun and the moon, not the stars. But so you see, ancient structures are built to align with celestial objects. And it's my own question, why are monuments in Thailand built with random alignments? I thought they were built randomly. I didn't know. Well, until now. But here's what I found. Different alignments for different places. Wat Phra Sri Ratana Maha Thát Chalieng, this is east-west oriented. Wat Suthat in Bangkok, I'm not sure. It's not quite north. It aligns most with the giant swing. We don't really know why it's like that. What Prasat Phanom Rung and Phra Pathom Jedi. Oh, sorry. It's not east, but why is it like that? Phra Pathom Jedi actually is aligned the same way. Why? Or Wat Tha Thong. It's aligned to the BTS station. Or Phra Thát Doi Suthep. This one is sort of really pointing nowhere. Why is that? What is the proper direction? Why was it built like that? Was it forced by geography? We'll see. But how do we know if they are not all randomly built? This is what I learned from them. The Thai archaeoastronomy methodology as practiced by this group at Narit. They really do their work, and the work is well founded. What they do is they do documentary investigation first, then they do precise azimuth measurements at the site, and they match the alignment with ancient sky. I'll explain further. Ancient structure alignment means aligned to the sun, either east-west or to some phenomena like summer or winter solstice or vernal or autumnal equinox. Like this, Angkor Wat is east-west aligned. Or aligned to a planet. This observatory in Karakol, Belize, is aligned to Venus. The staircase here is aligned to the northernmost rising of Venus each year, or rather each cycle of the planet. Aligned to a star or asterism. That's usually what we see in Thailand. Or aligned to a geographical feature, a river, a road, a BTS station. And when we say documentary investigation, We look for dates. We look for what king was reigning in the inscription or manuscript. We look for aesthetics or architectural style, the art style of the place. We look at the history of the place or archaeology of the place if we don't have any written records. Vernacular astronomy is important because different places look at stars differently. In Thailand, we don't use the Western constellations. We use Indian constellations, nakshatras. In Lana, they have their own local asterisms as well, and we need to know that. Legends and local customs also are in play when we research. Inscriptions often give dates and star position, like the date here says 1279 Chakra era is the same as 1357 CE. It says Friday, it says what asterism nakshatra was seen on that date. So this is a kind of inscription that we check for. Dates can be misread, like this one. People thought it was Jula Sakkarat, a different era. But actually it was not. It was Maha Sakkarat, Shaka era. And these eras are different by hundreds of years. So you can misread history. But you can check by these asterisms. You can see on this date, you can see this star. If you are in the wrong year, you won't see the star. Ancient chronicles also give dates. Or if there is no documentary source, like in Sithep really has no written inscriptions about this place at all. So we just have to look at the buildings. Now, I'll talk something about the background knowledge of archaeoastronomy. This part will be kind of tedious. Be warned. Dates. We have different types of dates. Because we see in inscriptions, they refer to different calendars. Even when the date is seen, you have to know what it is. It can be a solar date, like what we use, Gregorian date. It could have been a Julian date before that. Gregorian date is a date that we use today, started in about 1500 something by Pope Gregory XIII. Before that, we used, the Western world used Julian date, which after a few hundred years got the season wrong. You could have lunar calendar, disregard the seasons at all, sort of throw it away. Islamic calendar uses the moon, and the month and the year, according to the moon, just gives you the wrong season. But that's okay. Because that's religious and they don't use it for planting. Lunisolar calendar, all these, Shaka, Jula Sakkarat, Vikram Samvat, all these calendars are lunar, but they adjust it so that the calendar tells the season. Or rather conform to the season. A lunisolar calendar, I say a lunar with a twist because it cannot, a lunar alone is shorter than a year. Intercalary days make lunar year as long as normal year. And major calendars nowadays include these two. This is a Burmese calendar. This is a Thai calendar. And Shaka era is a historic. Nowadays it is a solar calendar because it's been made national calendar by India. Shaka year 0 is AD 78. Shaka becomes generic, meaning an era. Now we say Puttha Sakkarat from Shaka. From this word Shaka, it means era of Buddha. Or Jula Sakkarat means minor era. But the main era, Maha Sakkarat, is this one, Shaka, which is now known as Shalivahana Shaka. Southern India used it a lot. That's why it's important, because Southern Indian culture came to Thailand. And it's now adopted as Shaka calendar in 1957. And they have different days, different months. These are lunar months, still used in Hindu rituals. But it's become solar calendar already. Vikram Samvat is named after the legendary king Vikramaditya. Thai people would know it as the king in Vinitan Vetan. Generally used in North India and 50 years ahead of Gregorian calendar, except this day before, well, why January to April? Of course, it's the spring equinox day. They start on spring equinox, so that's why. Early Buddhist communities used it, so it might be used. Well, it has been found that some dates here from Vikram Samvat is used in Thailand also. Well, was used in Haripunchai, I think. And Jula Sakkarat, this one is the main one for Thailand and for the astrologers. Months are based on lunar months, conforms to tropical year by intercalary months and days. Sometimes we add the 8th month gets added to some years because you have to have a longer year so that in the whole cycle it conforms to the season. So the 7 times of 19 years is what is called a metonic cycle. We'll keep it at that. This one came from Payu Kingdom, Srikaset, in Burma, and used generally in Arakan, Lan Na, 12 Panna, Lan Chang, Siam, and Cambodia. So it's used a lot. Epochal year started in 638. This is a Thai calendar for this month. I'll just show you what we say. It's the year of the snake. It says the year of the snake, Jula Sakkarat 2025, Saka 1947, Ratana goes in era 244. This is the year of the snake, it says here. On the bottom line says year of the snake. And on the next line it says 7th lunar month until here. And then the 8th lunar month starts. We count the new month in lunar calendar here when the moon starts waxing. So when you have the new moon there, the next day is the new month. What else? Year of the snake again. No, that's it. And the next concept is ecliptic. This is the path that the sun takes the whole year round. Actually, the Earth orbits the sun, but from the point of view of us on Earth, you see the sun going around the sky and going through each constellation. This is what the Earth does. This is what the Earth sees. So in March, let's see. Sorry. We'll see. We have a diagram later. Nakshatra asterisms of the moon. We divide the sky, the ecliptic path. The moon also takes the ecliptic into 27 parts. So 27 nakshatras. From these, only 12 give their names to the month because the full moon occurs near these asterisms. That's what we see, the 12 months of the Hindu national calendar. You have 12 months with names from these 27. Now, zodiac sign, you can't see anything. Sorry, okay, better. This is what the sun does, travels through the sky for the whole year. It travels through different constellations. Below are the names of the month according to the constellation. Kanya means Virgo. The sun is in Virgo here. Or Mithuna, the sun is in the twins here. Now, superimposing that with the 27 nakshatras, you see that the nakshatras are just different places in the zodiac. We start at the here? No. Here. Here, that's when the sun is here, it's spring equinox and also the first asterism. Number one. Where is number one? Number one is here. Sorry, number one is here. 1, 2, 3, 4. The sun is more sort of level, while the moon sort of goes up and down a little bit. But these are the asterisms of the moon. The maker is an astrologer, so you get this. This is what happens. In a month, the sun moves through each constellation. And in a month, the moon moves through all constellations in a month. That's where, and that's how we get the name of the month and the name of each asterism that the moon goes through. Let's see. From Earth, you see the sun. If the sun just disappears, you see these constellations on the month. Say, August, September, October, November. That's ecliptic. The next idea is a treatise called Vastu Shastra. This one is important because it's like feng shui of India. It's how the Indians do their landscaping, their building, even nowadays. But it was really important before this. It's really reserved knowledge of high priests. So not everybody knew about this Vastu Shastra, and it requires a lot of expertise. You have to know where the stars are, where they appear in the sky at what day. So that's how you plan your city. And the city has to go, the center is Brahma, and this is the head, so you put your palace here, and here you put all your sewer, maybe. I don't know. And now, the craft of alignment, why do I say that? It's what the archaeoastronomy group does. First, you define a baseline, as long baseline as possible. You measure the star's horizontal angle relative to current position. There'll be a diagram, so just listen first. Get the star's azimuth. Calculate the baseline azimuth offset. Arrive at the baseline's precise azimuth. And that's what they do. Oh, one more idea here. Precession. The Earth rotates around an axis. This axis points north-south. The north side now points to a star called Polaris, but it's not always like that because it wobbles. This axis doesn't stay in place, it wobbles. And when it does that, it goes around nearly 26,000 years, each round. And that's how you get to the, age of Aquarius. 1000 CE, vernal equinox is in Pisces. You see Pisces, you see Aries, you see Taurus, and here's Aquarius. 500 years later, it's still in Pisces, but it's moved. Vernal equinox has moved. This is the start of the year, of the season. So the start of the season has moved. In 500 years later, so it's 2000. Year 2000, vernal equinox is here. Taurus has sort of dropped off because vernal equinox has go backward. And 500 years more, it's getting near Aquarius. And by 3000, it's already in Aquarius. This is how precession moves in 26,000 years through all this line and comes back again later, 26,000 years later. Here's a work example of what the archaeoastronomical group do. Take Phnom Rung. Phnom Rung is a temple on a top of an extinct volcano in Buriram. Famous for the sunrise through the 15 doorways, because it's aligned doorway. So you get sunrise and sunset through this doorway every year, 4 times a year. And previously, astronomers or surveyors have come to measure the alignments of this temple and concluded that the builders were building at a time when east was this way. Or the other one says the builders were wrong by a few degrees. But this is what the Narit group does. Well, the red lines are the cardinal directions. The green line is the baseline. You get along, 80.6 meter baseline, parallel to the temple, like that. It is not east-west, you see, different. A, you put a theodolite, this surveyor camera. B is the reference point, the last door, 0 vertical and 0 horizontal angle. What you do, you record GPS coordinate at A. Use the theodolite to record angles of stars visible from A, the stars visible from this point. Each star's multiple measurements, they do it 5 times each. I used to calculate an offset. The difference between values from A and the stellarium, then the difference, the offset from the north gives the temple's direction. This is what they do. They measure 5, don't read it. But this is what they do. They do statistical analysis, least square method, and then they arrive at different offsets, and then they average the offsets. And then, what do they do? Because of this precession, the north moves and the celestial coordinates move. The constellations look the same, but your measurements are sort of shift by little each century. Lucky that we have a program called Stellarium that takes precession into account. So we use this program to go back in time. And what kind of alignments are we looking for? You could look for solstice or equinox, sunrise or sunset at different times, or the moon. Well, the moon itself does not usually make directions, but the moon with asterisms does. We see the moon at different times with different asterisms. Possible alignment with the stars include heliacal rising and setting. Heliacal rising means you see it for the first time in the morning after you haven't seen it for a few months, and suddenly you see it. Heliacal setting, first visible evening setting. You've seen it for a few nights, but this is the time when it sets in the evening. Cosmical setting, the first visible morning setting. And achronical rising, the first visible evening rising. These are what we can look for in the stars, in alignments. And then we combine data, history, legends, archaeological histories, festivals and religions. We look for Vajra matching. Why is the doorway that way? Why is the library that way? Or why is the palace that way? Results from Phnom Rung theodolite observation azimuth is 84.6 degrees, plus or minus 1. That Spica was more significant of the star. Spica is in Virgo. It's more significant as a mark of New Year than equinox sun. And on that day, on this number, sunrise on this azimuth would occur on this date, which was too late for the temple's building construction. So they concluded that it was not the sun that the Phnom Rung was aligned to. It was Spica, visible cosmical setting, first morning setting, that appeared on this angle around 9:30 CE. It matched the date of the temple building. So why 86 becomes that? It's the other way. 86 is to the east, to the west it's 264. So they were matching the setting of Spica. And you see, this is the front of the temple. So the temple was facing west to the setting of Spica. So that's how they arrived at the alignment. Phnom Rung go that way. Wait. Okay. They say เถลิงศกสงกรานต์ when the moon. Okay. Yes. When the moon is in Virgo, Chitra is Spica. When the moon is with Spica, that's the new year. เถลิงศก means new year. So สงกรานต์ festival. It coincides with the sun's move from Pisces into Aries. But because you cannot look at the constellation where the sun is, you can look at the moon. And the moon is in Spica. Other places that use this alignment, well, วัดมหาธาตุนครศรีธรรมราช พระปฐมเจดีย์ remember? They align the same way. This shows the date. Spica rises or sets on this date, which coincides with the date of the Khmer Empire, the building of a Phnom Rung, better than, well, it matches better than the sun. That's Pimai, which comes later. Now, that's the work example. Now I talk about what they have found. Three places: พระธาตุดอยสุเทพ พระธาตุหริพุนชัย and เขาคลังใน in ศรีเทพ They are all Buddhist temples dedicated to the Buddha. The alignment point to Buddha's asterisms. The event in common, the event that commemorates the Buddha is Visakha Busha. It's specifically a full moon day in Vishakha Nakshatra. That's the day that marks important events in Buddha's life. So 3 temples align with this asterism, but they are aligned with different asterisms because although they mark Visakha Busha, they use different asterisms to mark Visakha Busha. The top one is Corona Borealis, the Lana in Chiang Mai. The Lana people in Chiang Mai use this star to mark Visakha Busha. So when the moon is here, they say that's the date for Visakha Busha, and that's what they align พระธาตุดอยสุเทพ with this. The middle one is the head of the Scorpio. The Mon people call it the peacock asterism. Haripunchai aligns Visakha Busha with this asterism. The bottom is actually the scale, Libra. Some cultures point to this asterism for Visakha Bucha, mostly in India. India uses this. Sorry. And on the ecliptic, you see, this is the ecliptic where the sun is, and also where the moon is. When the sun is, or when the moon is on the ecliptic on Libra, it also aligns with Corona Borealis. So that's just easier to see, they say. The Lana people say it is easier to see this constellation, so they use it to mark Visakha Bucha. This is the head of the scorpion. So, พระธาตุดอยสุเทพ they use different groups: Corona Borealis, Scorpio, and Libra match differently. So that's what the heritage group found. So this is Doi Suthep matching the, what is it? Acronical rising, meaning rising with the moon when the sun sets. So when the sun sets, this constellation rises. And that พระธาตุดอยสุเทพ aligns with the moon and this constellation. พระธาตุหริพุนชัย is aligned also with the acronical rising of Scorpio. So it's like that. And เขาคลังใน is aligned with Libra on acronical rising also. Look at the date. Sort of it gets older and different times have different directions. What's this? พระธาตุดอยสุเทพ aligned with Corona Borealis. The date was way back once. Sorry, doesn't matter. พิมาย is in นครราชสีมา It's the biggest temple in Thailand, and it is aligned with the date of Loi Krathong, because it is aligned for the Pleiades. When the moon is in Pleiades, it's the Loi Krathong day, and it's the New Year day of this culture, of the Khmer culture. They say it's also aligned with Mon asterism of Peacock, the Scorpio, like what we see before, but it's a different. They say they hypothesize that it used to be Mon sanctuary before becoming Khmer. Let's see. Okay, here. Pleiades coincides with the date of Khmer Empire. That's how they arrive at this conclusion. And they say Agni, the god of fire, rules the southeast direction and Kritika Nakshatra. So they celebrate with lights and sound and fire for the fire god. This one, วัดศรีชุมสุโขทัย The baseline just goes through this, the famous Buddha at วัดศรีชุม. And this alignment aligns with a chronicle rising of a star called Swallowsin in Delphinus. It's the Nishta Nakshatra. Why is it aligned to this? Usually, buildings aligned to the Nishta commemorates the coronation of the Buddha. So the researchers think that Wat Sichum was not really the center of Sukhothai or was not an important royal temple. Because of this alignment, it is more like a stupa for keeping the Buddha's relics. We don't know. This is the conjecture. And now, why do we go to Indonesia? Indonesia was the first international investigation that we did. We went there with cooperation with BRIN, the National Research and Innovation Agency there, because we proposed to them that we would like to investigate Borobudur, Prambanan, and Janti Mendut, and Pawon came in later. Why? They are curious with the work that people do in Thailand, so they are happy that we go over and investigate. I'll just show about Mendut. Well, we are going to Sri Lanka next week. Janti Mendut. It's a Buddhist monument. We found that it is related to Asaha Bucha, the sacred day that the Buddhism came into the world. That's the 8th lunar month when the moon is in Ashada Nakshatra. And the symbolism of this place, not only that it aligns with the Asaha Puja, the Buddha is the sermon, Buddha giving sermon on Asaha Puja, and at the base is the Dhammachakra and the deer. So everything points to this place being the commemoration of Asaha Puja. And interestingly, Vieng Tha Kan in Chiang Mai is having the same alignment, also aligned to Uttara Ashata Nakshatra. They say probably symbolize Sarnath, where the Buddha gave the first sermon. And that's the alignment. This is Mendut. And this is Vieng Tha Kan, the same direction. Well, Indian cultures permeate Southeast Asia, so that's why we see a lot of temples that have been built with Indian influence and alignment. We would like to see more of different places. Well, Cambodia, India, Indonesia. These places. Vietnam, that's My Sơn in central Vietnam. Is interesting. But that's my parting note. Archaeoastronomy is a multidisciplinary pursuit. That's how I can get into it as well, you see. And Thailand's contribution to the field is really world class. Thank you very much. Any question is welcome.
Can you just say a little bit about the computer program you mentioned and how you use it?
Excel.
Oh, I thought there was a yeah.
Stellarium.
Yeah.
That's a program you can already download anywhere. It's a free open source program. So Stellarium can take you back thousands of years. The precession wobble that I show came from Stellarium also. So it really is a useful program. Everyone can download it on PC, on Mac, on phone.
Thank you very much. I think this is like one of the most exciting discipline that emerged recently. I wonder that have we found any inscription that validate this principle? For example, well, for any building, right, that is astronomically aligned, you can say it aligns with this star, but how can we prove that? Because it can point to any stars. There are many stars in the sky. So have we found any inscription that says, yes, this is our intention, that it should align like this?
We have not found a direct inscription like that.
So it has not been corroborated with other evidence.
But the different inscriptions give dates and so that we know the building dates or the dates of activities in the place, so we know that it was around that time. And we just look for a good match of stars, really. But as I say, we look at religion, we look at customs before we arrive at any conclusion. We could be wrong still.
And because this Vastu Shastra came from India, right? I wonder, because in India there must be a vast number of these architectures that are astronomically aligned, and also they also are very good at keeping records. Do we have such corroboration in India?
The records were mostly lost. Buddhist monuments were built and then sort of forgotten for hundreds of years. By the time people rediscovered them, there was really no record of what happened. But later scholars also looked at the alignments of different Buddhist monuments in India and found that they really are the same. They use the same constellations. But we would like to go there to check, like what we will do next week.
Yes, and I hope you do the same in India as well, because the astronomy in India was like very, very advanced at the same time as the European astronomy in the 14th, 15th century. So I think maybe there's a lot to be discovered there as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
In Thai Monton, or another example, Nakhon Si Thammarat has 12 subordinate cities connect to the 12 Somia 12 นักษัตริย์เพราะฉะนั้น is there possible to the influence of India or Thailand astronomical knowledge? Thank you.
I'm not sure what you are asking. Sorry. But I guess, does astronomy influence politics? From what I've read, not directly. But there was one time that King Prasad Thong in Ayutthaya wanted to reduce Jula Sakarat by 1 year and asked Burmese king to follow, and the Burmese did not want to follow. I'm not sure if that's political or academic. As for Nakhon Sri Thammarat, I've seen somewhere that the tradition of the 12 zodiac cities came later. It's a later tradition, sort of, within 100 or 200 years only. So probably came from the north, because southern Thailand did not have this zodiac until then. So I don't know. We don't know where it came from.
Thank you. That's quite an eye-opening talk. Early in your lecture, you mentioned that the Indian epic or rendering of years began in the Common Era 78. What is the significance of that date, and how is it that it comes so close to the beginning of the Common Era?
It's the date that the king wanted to start a new era. I think that's all.
It's often believed that the kings were aligning monuments in order to create some kind of harmony between the terrestrial world and the universe. But within that context, I can't understand why they are choosing to align to these particular asterisms. It seems to be departing completely from that concept.
Because the examples I gave are all religious monuments. There are places in Ayutthaya where the king built monuments or temples aligned to his stars. Yes, they do. We found it in Ayutthaya. Kings align their monuments to what do you call it? The Arcturus, to Arcturus, a bright star near the North Star. So they do, and we find that too.
In the West, an Athenian codified the Metonic cycle. I'm wondering, in these traditions, was there an explicit codification of it, I suppose maybe in India? And if so, when and by whom?
I don't know enough to answer that question, but yes, they do found it also in India. But I cannot tell you more. Sorry.
Okay, so most of your examples are historic sites. I'm studying prehistoric archaeology, so I just wonder, have you taken a look on any prehistoric site? Because when it's historic, we assume that it comes from India. But
yes.
I just wonder, before that, do Thai people or people who live in this region, do they have their own asterism? Is that the word?
Yeah. Maybe, but that would be very interesting to do. I haven't heard that the history group is trying anything like that, but do you have any suggestion?
Well, there's an interesting site in Laos, Thung Hai Hin, or the Plain of
Yes.
Jars, and
Yes.
also I think I don't know. I'm trying to think like religious site from prehistory, and I only can think of those megalith. Yes, Pupabat, or somewhere in Sema, where they have the megalithic
Yes,
sites.
could be, but okay.
There's
Thank
so
you.
many prehistoric sites.
Yes, Bangkok Hin is really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
คุณไบรอัน
This is perhaps not a very well-informed question, but again, early in your talk, you noted that the calendar for Islamic holidays follows the lunar calendar, and that it's not aligned to seasons.
Mm-hmm.
How is it then that Ramadan always seems to come sort of in the... Doesn't it normally come within the first 4 months of the year? It moves all the way through the year. No, what's the... How is it that... I mean, does Ramadan come normally at a similar time of the year each year?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
No, any time in the year. Whoa, okay.
I think that it's only because they live in the desert, so they don't know. They don't have to follow any agricultural cycle that they can do pure lunar calendar. But that's my own guess.
Brian's question suggested one to me, which is even the lunar solar calendars aren't, I mean, they're a little off every year to the seasons because you have an intercalary month every 3 or 4 years, whatever it is. So I think in most cultures there was also a parallel agricultural calendar, right? I mean, it wouldn't be as disjointed as in the Islamic world. It would be pretty close to the civil, religious, formal calendar. And do you know anything about those?
I'm not sure because all the things that I look at are mostly lunisolar and mostly old world calendars. I don't really know what the new world does.
Well, no. My point is that it's important for farmers to know exactly when to plant.
Yes.
And the lunar solar calendars are only approximate. So, I mean, can you think of any situations where, somebody managed that?
Yes, that's not difficult.
No.
Not difficult because you can look at the sun, and each year the sun comes back to the same place. We went to Peru a few years back, and I remember going to Machu Picchu and standing on top of the Andean Way, on the gateway to Machu Picchu, and it faces the direction of spring equinox. So people build things to align to the sun, and that's how they do agriculture.
I would like to know if there aren't alignments which are purely based on topographical features and not on astronomical features. I have heard, for example, about the so-called cosmological alignment in Yogyakarta and the alignment between Borobudur, Candi Mendut and Candi Pawon.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So there are plenty of temples or monuments built aligned to topographical features, rivers, canals, roads. But the Yogyakarta axis is very interesting. We haven't investigated that yet. We would like to, but We don't know what it's aligned to, but we would like to know.
Well, this isn't a question, but I find this fascinating because it looks like an additional dimension in looking at ancient monuments. We used to have archaeological digs as evidence, and then we have the DNA evidence. And it seems that if we were to follow this, it's multidisciplinary. It means that you could even almost determine the date of the building or the planning of it from its astronomical, astronomical background. I mean, it's fascinating that is it really going to be that early? The Khao Klang Nai seems to be so very early. Sounds like 4th century, something like that. It could be the first, alignment of the building, or even the Panom was it? It seems very early, 9th century or 7th century. But then when you have the Indonesian example, the sermon, but that's lovely because now you see the evidence of the actual sculpture of the deer. And then now you have the alignment. I think that's a lovely additional, evidence or cultural evidence, which I seem to be is another way of looking at things. And as you indicated, it could even trace the planning of it. And I think it's tough to follow up. And I understand that, in fact, the Siam Society will start to get people out of the room and go into the dark. Is that right?
Yes. That's a different activity, not archaeoastronomy. But this is stargazing. I would like to take people to stargaze.
Okay. So I think we should get out sometime. Not in the rain so much, but yeah. Any other fascinating question? I think it's a fascinating subject. I think, don't you think? I think so, yeah.
Any
more questions? No? No? All right. Okay. All right. So thank you very much indeed, and so we appreciate that lecture. So this is all.